Hello, and welcome to the Planning Your Fellowship Travel webinar for Churchill Fellows. I'm Sara Venerus, the Fellowship Support Manager here at the Trust, and I'm here with Sara Venerus, the Fellowship Director, who will help you with your questions at the end. The aim of the webinar today is to give you some advice and guidance on things you need to prepare before you start your fellowship, and hopefully you will come out of it with a better understanding of what kind of support is available from here, and with greater awareness of things you might need to consider both before you venture on your travels and while you are abroad. And of course, if you want more tailored advice afterwards, do email me with your own particular plan. Before we start, I would like to show you how to send your questions in. First of all, go to the Join Me menu, and you'll see that on the menu, one of the icons looks like a speech bubble. If you click on that, a chat box appears. That's the way to send your questions in. It is important that you select the @_admin, as this means that you send it to us. If you select the at all, it means that you will send it to all the participants. So please select @_admin, and your question will go straight to us. Then you can type your question, press enter, and we will be able to see it. You can send your question at any time during the webinar, so while I'm presenting, or during the live session at the end, but we will answer them at the end. Also, if you have a question that you don't want to share with anyone else, please email or call me during normal office hours. After this session, we will send you a link with the recording of the whole webinar. So, I hope this session will be useful to you, and I think we can get started. So let me briefly tell you what we will cover in this webinar. We will cover letter of introduction, itinerary, translations, Japan, self-care, and staying safe. You should all have received the letter of introduction by now. They are one of the official proofs of the award, and the idea is for you to attach it to the email you send to your contacts. They're also very useful when you apply for a visa. They are dated March 2019, but if you travel later in the year or next year and you want to start getting in touch with your contacts or apply for a visa until later, you just have to get in touch with me and when you're ready, and I will send you another copy with the current date. I recommend taking a copy of it and always have it on you when you travel. We know for some fellows that they were stopped by the police and asked about their reason for being in that country just as they were walking along the streets and taking pictures. On another occasion, they were questioned by the border officers when they landed in the US. So luckily, these fellows had a copy of that letter with them, and that stopped the police from asking any further questions. It is sad for me having to report this, as this kind of thing should not happen, but they do, luckily not too often. So my advice is to keep one copy on you. It's not heavy and it is useful. And depending on the country you go and on your project, you might find out that some of your contacts don't speak English. I will tell you more about translation when I cover that topic later. But as far as the letter of introduction is concerned, you might find it useful to translate it. We are happy for you to have it translated, but this has to be done by a certified translator or a native speaker, and needs to be sent to your contacts together with the original letter in English, and not to substitute it. Quite a few of you are going to Italy this year. In that case, I'm happy to translate the letter for you if your contacts don't speak English. But I'm afraid that's the only language I can offer. If you need translation in different languages, please get in touch. The translation are paid in addition to your grant, and anything that is paid on top of your grant needs to be approved by us before you book it or confirm it. Otherwise, we might not be able to reimburse you. We can only approve it once you know for sure that your contacts don't speak English. And if you need it done, please let us know how much they've quoted you. So let's move on to itineraries. Once you start hearing back from your contacts about their availability and possible dates, you can start finalizing your itinerary. There is an itinerary plan that we would like you to use. You can find it in the Fellows Resources area on our website. And if you are not familiar with the website yet, let me quickly show you how to get there. So from our website, you select Fellows Login. Once you're in, you click on Fellows Resources, and then you can download it from the Before Traveling section. Ideally, you should submit your itinerary a couple of months before you travel. If your fellowship is in 2 parts, you can submit the itinerary for each part separately, if this helps. But of course, you are free to submit it for both journeys at the same time if you think it is ready. I have created a mock itinerary just to give you an idea. First thing, don't worry about including flights or any budget in this. What we expect to see at this stage is the list of places where your meeting will take place, for example, the city or town, and the dates or number of days you will spend in each place, and that would go on the left-hand side. And the list of organization or individuals on the right column. For each meeting, please let us know whether it is confirmed or not. If the date and time is not set yet, that's fine, but we need to know whether this organization has agreed to meet you and whether they are available during the time you will be there. As I said at the seminar, we don't need all the meetings to be confirmed to approve your itinerary, but we would need to see that around half of them, or at least the main ones, are, and you've got a plan. We're also well aware of cultural differences when we look at itineraries, and we do realize that it is more likely you will have more meetings arranged and confirmed 2 months before your departure date if you go, say, to Norway, rather than if you go to India. This is to say that we still recommend you submit a couple of months before your proposed departure date, and we can take it from there. Having said that, we all live busy lives, and so do your hosts. Sometimes, and in exceptional circumstances, despite all your efforts to contact someone and commit them to a certain date, they won't reply to you until much later. Not necessarily because they don't want to, but because they don't know whether they will be available. And if they confirm their availability for, let's say, the following month, please let us know. I had fellows calling me asking what they should do, whether to accept the invitation or not, worried about the 2 months deadline. My piece of advice is to think whether this contact is key for your project or not, whether it is likely they will be available again or this is your only shot. If this happens, you also need to check how much the flights will be. Please consider this and be aware that we won't be able to increase your grant because of a short notice departure. But if you decide to go ahead and travel, we can have a quick turnaround. And regarding your flights, please don't book any flight until your itinerary is approved. However, if you're sure about the departure and return date, nothing stops you from start looking at flights. You can get in touch with Diversity Travel, and you can ask them to send you a quote. They can hold flights until the day before your departure for free with some airlines. Just ask them to explain to you how this works. In the meantime, you can research flights independently, see whether you can find better offers and compare prices, so that when the itinerary is confirmed, you already have an idea of the costs of flights, and perhaps you have a couple of flights already on hold for you. When you submit your shortlist form back in November, we ask about your proposed departure date. I just wanted to make clear that that date or month is not binding. It can stay the same, but if you have to leave earlier or later because of personal or work reason or contacts availability, this is fine. We are flexible about that. The only thing I would need is for you to drop me an email to let me know about the change so that I can make a note about that and I'm up to date with your plans. Another thing that may happen is that over the year you realize that for many reasons you won't be able to travel in the number of phases you discussed at interview. and on which your grant was calculated. So, for example, you wanted to travel to the US and Brazil in just one phase, but for X reasons, you now need to split your fellowship into 3. I just wanted to reassure you that this is possible, but we cannot increase your grant for that. So, as long as you can work within the grant amount awarded, or are happy to stretch your grant a bit, or self-fund anything in excess, we are fine, and we will arrange your travel and medical insurance for any travel there. Again, if this happens, do get in touch and we can discuss this further. Another possible scenario is that you can no longer travel to one of the countries in your original proposal. Some of the reasons why this might happen is because your contacts are no longer available, or because there are security issues in the places you would like to visit. And as you can imagine, we cannot support travel to areas where FCO advice is not to visit. If this happens, we would ask you to send us a new proposal explaining why the new country would be beneficial to your project. And please bear in mind that the aims of your project must remain. And the last thing about itineraries is conferences. We can pay for one conference in addition to the grant. This is limited to conference fees only and up to £500. Travel to the conference venue and accommodation will be deducted from your grant. As this is paid in addition to your grant, I will need you to send me the link to the conference website and to let me know the price of your ticket. And once approved, you can go ahead and secure your place. And all I will need from you is the receipt for reimbursement. So these are the main things about itineraries. I think we can now move on to translations. Some of you may need an interpreter for a few meetings when they are on their fellowship. As explained in the award letter, we pay for translation in addition to the grant, and they are approved on a case-by-case basis. So once your itinerary is approved, you will have a clear idea of how many meetings you will need a translator for. Usually we suggest fellows to get in touch with the language department at local universities, as they may be able to provide an equally good but much cheaper service than agencies. Alternatively, the British Council in the country you will visit may be able to offer some advice and point you in the right direction. We will need you to send us a quote, and once this has been approved, we will pay for it in addition to your grant, and we'll just need you to send us some form of receipt once you are back. If this is a certified translator, it won't be a problem, as they can invoice you easily. If they are students or don't have their own business, it can be a piece of paper where you write the details of the student and their email or contact address, and the amount you paid and the service received. And please include yours and the student's signature. In any case, please get in touch as soon as you know you will need a translator, as we may be able to connect you with previous fellows who travel to the country you will be traveled to, and they can advise you on translators and give you some general travel advice. So let's move on to Japan. Over the last few years, we have seen an increasing number of fellows traveling to Asia. As this year there is a bunch of you who will travel to Japan, I would like to share with you the main problem fellows who travel there encounter and how they overcame. When fellows started making contact with the organization they were hoping to visit, and they sent an email explaining who they were and what the reason for their request was, they often didn't get any reply. This happened more often with smaller national organizations than with international ones. This is because in the Japanese culture, it is unlikely for someone to reply to an email coming out of the blue and from someone they don't know. So the way they solved the impasse was by using either a translator or an intermediary. This could be someone not necessarily in the field that speaks the language and can introduce you. If you don't know where to start from, we suggest you get in touch with the British Council in Japan. As I mentioned earlier regarding translation, this is actually a suggestion that works for any country the British Council has representative, as they may be able to help you, or if they cannot, they can point you in the right direction. Japan is, at its core, a country of traditions, respect, and etiquette. The next 2 points are more about making you aware of the kind of rituals you will find yourself in many times during your visit. So, one is the importance of business cards. It is common rule to exchange business cards when you meet in person for the first time, regardless whether you have already exchanged emails with this person and you both know who the other person is. The business cards have to be held with 2 hands and given with the right side facing the other person. When you receive the other person's business card, read the name and put it away with care. You can put it in your jacket, in your bag, but don't put it in your trousers pocket or on the back pocket of your jeans, as this is not seen as a sign of respect. And another point is the importance of gifts. Other thing that is common courtesy is to take a gift from the UK. It can be a very small thing, and if you want, you can buy some small medals from the office. But it can be anything else, as long as it is from the UK. And when you present them with your gift, you can say, Sumaranai mono desu ga, as first thing, which means it's nothing, but please accept it. If you look it up on the internet, you will find plenty of videos about this and other useful videos on Japanese etiquette, if you want to broaden your knowledge on this and be ready for when this happens. And let's move on to the last point, so self-care and staying safe. As I mentioned at the seminar, please try not to overpack your itinerary and take breaks. I know that you think you've got this opportunity and you don't want to waste any minute of this, and this is totally understandable, but we suggest you keep some time completely free, as contacts will develop and opportunities will arise while you are there, and it would be a shame if you couldn't go and visit someone just because you don't have time. You'll always have to consider that you will need time to take in all the information you learn. So our piece of advice is to allow some time for reflection and for rest. You will need some time or days like this to absorb the experience and to make sense of everything you've heard and seen. Don't forget that while you are abroad, it is likely you will spend much more time than usual on your own, in a different environment, and in many cases in a country where they speak a different language. So though this is exciting, it could also be challenging at times. And this might happen whether you are a seasoned traveler or this is your first time on a trip like this. And that's why we think it is important you make sure you have a support system in place, such as family and friends with whom you can talk and relate. And of course, do take care and do not put yourself at risk. For those of you who could not make it to the seminars, we will send you your business cards by post shortly. Once you get them, if you turn the box over, you will notice that there is a card for emergency contact. I've put a pair of cards in each box, and the idea behind it is for you to complete it with your details and always have it on you or in your pocket or bag when you travel. As you can see, there are details and the policy number of the medical and travel insurance we will arrange for you. Hopefully you'll never need to use it, but in case you do, you've got everything in one place. And the last thing I would like to mention is the RSA Travel Assistant application. So please download it, the assistant application before you depart. It is completely free. In the Fellows resources on our website, you can find a PDF explaining how to register your details and showing everything the application can do. But to give you an idea, in the pre-travel advice section gives you useful and detailed information and tips from traveling to any country around the world. You can also do the e-learning course that covers personal security, preparation and arrival, street crime and robbery, terrorism and civil unrest. It also includes safety advice for women traveling alone. The alert section allows you to receive a feed of news, security, and health alerts excuse me, for the selected countries. So, for example, if your fellowship will take you to Brazil, New Zealand, and India, you can just select those 3 countries and you will receive alerts if anything happens in any of those places. In the medical section, you can store information that you might need during your travels, such as medical history or vaccination records. And if you're in need of help, you can access the 24/7 emergency assistance phone line straight from the application. I know that there is a lot to do before you leave on your fellowship, but I really recommend you take some time to familiarize yourself with this application. So we have come to the end of this first part of the webinar. So thank you for listening. I think we can now move on to the Q&A part of the webinar.
Hello, I'm Sara Venerus, and I'll be facilitating the Q&A. So you have both me and Sara Venerus here. So I'll be answering any questions about your grant, and Sara will be answering the travel questions. So we look forward to reading them all. I see that some have already come in, so I'll go in order of receipt. So our first question is about somebody who's worried about the pound crashing post-Brexit and this shortening their trip, and if there are any contingencies in place for this. The answer is yes, we have been planning for Brexit as much as possible. We had a similar situation for the 2016 cohort when the pound crashed following the referendum, and we made sure that everybody's grants were still affordable for the amount of time they were away. So I suppose we'll be monitoring the situation and responding to it. But yes, please don't worry about your grants. It's within our sight. The second question is from a fellow whose grant awarded was different from their budget. And are we able to share the basis of the calculations of this number, as it may help them refine their own budget? So if you would like to have an actual breakdown of how we did it, please email Sara Venerus and we'll respond by email. But to give you an overall understanding on how we recalculate it, we recalculate every budget you submit. So everybody gets grants done with the same system, so they're fair and equal. We have our travel agent, Diversity Travel, gives us quotes for all of your internal and international travel. So if your travel quotes differ, those come directly from the travel agent. And we have our own daily rates for each country, and for larger countries such as the US, we have daily rates for each city, and we'll calculate your living costs according to those. And we're happy to share with each of you the ones that are relevant to your budget, because that may help you plan your accommodation.
Okay, the next question is it okay to book the return flight to the UK first, and once you are in the country you're visiting, book your internal flights, or closer to the departure date to book the internal flights once all the contacts have confirmed? Yes, that is absolutely fine. Actually, something that many fellows do. Once they know the dates they will be away, they were available to travel, and a few contacts have replied and their itinerary has been approved, they book the return flight to the UK, and they book the internal flight only when they are there, when all the contacts have confirmed. That is absolutely fine.
And the next question is from somebody who's traveling on their fellowship, and they're planning to stay away for 3 weeks holiday in addition to their fellowship, and they say WCMT covers insurance for 2 weeks of that. Is it okay for fellows to arrange their own insurance, in this case for the 3rd week, but for any additional week?
No, unfortunately not. We can only arrange the insurance up to 2 weeks of holiday. So any time that you want to take a holiday on top of that will have to be arranged. You'll have to arrange your own insurance for that.
And the next question is about vaccination. So are fellows eligible to reclaim the costs of vaccinations and or malaria tablets?
Yes, we pay for vaccination in addition to the grant. So any vaccination you need, please just send us the receipt, and we will reimburse you for that.
Okay, the next question is from somebody traveling to Spain for work, and their fellowship starts in Portugal. So is it okay for them to combine the two, so they would go to Spain for their own work trip, then travel to Portugal from there, or does their fellowship have to start from the UK?
Yeah, the fellowship doesn't have to start from the UK. So if you are already abroad, either for work or on holiday, it's fine for your fellowship to start from anywhere in the world. You just have to let me know the date your fellowship will start and end, and I will arrange the insurance for that time.
So the next question is from somebody who's planning to travel to a city in a certain country, then fly internally to a different city, then fly back from city number 2. So I suppose they're flying internationally, say to New York, I'm making this up, then they're going to Denver, and then Denver, New York to return to the UK. And they've realized that this is more expensive to do those internal flights and returning from the same city. So do we have any advice? Do we have any experience of this? And do people generally fly to the same city?
Well, it really depends on how much time they've got and whether it's the difference in price is a lot. We suggest, if possible, to try and go and return from the same city, because it is cheaper. But yes, it depends. It depends on each fellowship is different. So if you want to send me the itinerary, we might have a look at it together.
Wonderful. We have a question from somebody who's never requested a visa before, and they're asking if it would be easier to do it through an agency.
The ESTA and ETA for Canada and the US are very easy to do online, and for Australia as well. If you need to request other visas, it might be, it depends on the visa. It might be easier to do it through an agent, but we won't be able to reimburse you for the cost, the cost of the agent, so the fee that the agent will charge you for, but just for the visa cost.
Wonderful. And continuing on the subject of visas, do you recommend fellows to travel on tourist visas to the US and Australia?
Yes, that's what most of our fellows do. You won't be paid on your fellowship, so that is one of the reasons why we say that. And in some particular cases, you'll need a special visa, but that really depends on your project or the kind of project that you're going to do. And it's a very small number, but usually, it's the tourist visa is absolutely fine.
Okay. The next question is about making contact with people abroad. So apart from the letter of introduction, how can fellows introduce themselves and their research? Do you have any suggestions?
Are you asking about whether to contact them by email or other channels? Because if it's something else that you may think of is using LinkedIn, that is something that many fellows do. How to introduce my research and myself and my research? No, I don't have any particular suggestion on that.
I think I suppose there are two ways of going about it. If you already have a connection, then they might help facilitate some introduction. So that is often a good way to do that. But obviously, if you don't have that initial connection in the country already, you'll have to, I suppose, cold call or cold email people. Fellows overall do find that hosts are very responsive, and if you contact a certain number of organizations, somebody will get back to you. And once you start making connections, it becomes much easier. So I think it is, it's a bit like stepping into the darkness at the beginning when you send those first letters with the letter of introduction attached. But I think you'll find that you'll get those answers back and it'll become easier. Social media is also a good one. If you use Twitter, that might be a good way to introduce yourself, LinkedIn. So I suppose use everything at your disposal and whatever is most used in your sector also. Going back to visas, we have a question from somebody who has a visa from a previous visit, and they wanted to check if it's okay for this trip, as the US Embassy doesn't offer advice on this.
Well, we are not visa experts, so I think if it's a tourist visa, it really shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. If it's a business visa, then it's probably not okay to use it for a different trip because they would have approved your visa for that particular business trip. So I would say then just apply for a
visa for an ESTA. And as I said during the presentation, always have the letter of introduction when you land in the US.
So we have another question about budget. So this particular fellow hadn't included a budget item in their application. So in this case, fees to forest therapy site in Japan. In the case that they can get a free entry or an entry in kind, if they can't get that, can they claim it back, or should it be absorbed by their living costs?
I think it should be absorbed by your living cost. But if you know how much, once you know how much it will be, just drop me an email and we can have a look at that.
And then we have another question about getting in contact with hosts abroad. So this particular fellow has been in touch with the people they would like to visit for quite a while, for a few years. But in the last few months, once they've started asking about their fellowship, they haven't been getting a response. And they wonder if this has happened to anyone before. And if they don't respond in good time, could they propose a different trip?
Yes, this happens sometimes. And if they don't, my suggestion is to just, try another time, and I don't know whether it's okay, depending on you'll see whether it's okay to follow up with a phone call or leave it as it is. But it is possible to propose a different trip. It is possible. Just think about that and then get in touch, and we can definitely include that.
And I would say think about a plan B in
the
same area.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else you would like to contact? Okay, so we have a question about number of weeks. So somebody's applied for 8 weeks, but they were awarded for 6. They would like to stay and have the availability to stay for the extra 2 weeks at their own expense. Is that possible?
Yes, it is. It is possible. We won't be able to increase the grant, but we will be able to arrange your travel insurance for those 2 extra weeks, because we've got that 2 weeks flexibility with holidays. This means, though, that if this person would like to stay to this country for longer than 8 weeks, they would have to arrange their own insurance. For the rest of the time.
And then we have a similar question about, is it possible to add a country based on further research without increasing the grant?
It is possible, but we will need to know why do you think this country is beneficial to your research. So we need to have this conversation, but it's something that we can definitely discuss.
Okay. Then a question about conferences. So following their application, they've discovered that there's a conference in one of the areas they're traveling to. Mm-hmm. Can they attend? What are the criteria?
Well, the conference needs to be linked to your project. And what we would ask you is to send the link to the conference website and let us know the kind of ticket you would like to buy. And once we see, and also explain why you think this conference would be helpful to you. And we will have a look at this, and once it's approved, you can go ahead and book your tickets. I said that during the presentation, but I'm repeating it now, that we can pay for conference fees in addition to the grant, but up to £500. If the conference costs more, we are happy to contribute up to £500, and you'll have to pay for the rest. Sometimes fellows ask their employer to help with the cost. So, and many employers have been very helpful and happy to contribute.
Okay, so we don't have any more questions at the moment. I'm going to give you just a little while to add any more. So if you have any questions, please type them out now. And okay, we have one come in. So the focus of their project has changed slightly. Do they need to discuss that with WCMT first?
Yes, it would be. Yeah, it would be. I think it's a good idea to just drop an email and explain why it has changed. That will help us, being up to date with your project, and will help us better understand what you're trying to do. That would be fine.
Yes, and if you find, or if anyone else finds that their project changes significantly, then don't feel shy to contact us about that too. We do understand that that may happen, and we try to accommodate it.
Yes.
And going on to conferences. So are we very strict about what constitutes a conference? If it's more of a short training or CPD event, would that be okay? And if it's not acceptable, could the fellow fund the training or CPD?
Yeah, we are strict about conferences because it's a place where you could meet as a lot of other people in the sector, in the field, rather than a short training or CPD event. So, but we are it's okay for fellow to to self-fund a short training or a CPD event. Yeah, that's all
right. Okay, I think that is the end of your questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Yeah.
And we'll be posting this on our website and sending you a link to the recording. So if you have any further questions that pop into your mind after this webinar, just drop us an email and we would be happy to respond, or call us. We're always available.
Yes, please do. Yeah, thank you for being here today.
And good luck to everyone, and happy planning.